When the world is just too much, turn it off and turn on positive, encouraging K-Love.
I'm gonna praise.
World off. K-Love on.
K-Love is sunshine for my soul.
I love K-Love.
Listen now on your radio, online, or on the free K-Love app.
K-Love makes me feel so good.
Positive, encouraging K-Love.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I'm your host, Lori LeBay, and I'm so excited that you're joining us today. We are going to have a fascinating conversation, as usual, as we learn from people all around the world at all ages and stages of life. Stay tuned as we shift our dementia care from crisis to comfort.
Here we go. What you think about, you will bring about the mental change. We will.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer Speaks. I'm your host, Lori LeBay. Today, we're going to be talking about the power of light for brain health. But before I introduce you to our guest, I always like to encourage everyone to check out Alzheimer Speaks. We have been creating content, since 2009, which is free. So please go to alzheimerspeaks.com. Go to our free educational resources, and you will find plenty to peruse. If you are living with dementia, if you are a family member or friend or a professional, there's something for everybody there. And also check out our sister company, Dementia Map, which is a global resource directory that we are building out. And if you have a service, product, or tool, you are more than welcome to input your service, product, or tool into the map. And don't think you have to be a company. Maybe you're living with dementia or caring for someone and you've written a book, or you have a YouTube channel, or you've created a support group. Whatever it might be, everyone is welcome from all around the world and at all levels and stages in dealing with dementia and caregiving. You can also reach out to me for a tour of the site and how it works to get yourself listed, or maybe you are just interested in how to use it for yourself. There's no cost. You can, get in there 24/7. No one's ever going to bother you. You don't have to put in a password or any of that stuff. We just want to keep it simple for the public to be able to access information. And last, I just want to give a shout out to my webmasters, Q for Good. People are always asking me, who do you use? And so I like to give them a shout out. They really know their stuff. I know they've decreased my stress level tremendously, and they're reasonably priced, and they stick to their deadlines. So check out Q for Good. And with no further ado, let's go meet our guest. Well, Jordan, I am so glad to have you with us today. I think this topic of light and brain health is really interesting. I've, had various people on over the years, but it seems like the public still doesn't know about light therapy, and I think it's really important for people to understand that. So I'm anxious to have you explain it to us and the impact that it can have on people's lives. But first, if you don't mind introducing yourself to our audience.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. So my name's Jordan Hamlin. I work for a company called Neuronic, and we specialize in transcranial photo-biomodulation. I know that's a lot of terms right there, but we'll definitely explain them further. My background, actually, I started working with neurofeedback and with EEGs. And in 2020, when COVID hit, I started researching light. And it was just kind of amazing how much I learned that really can be impacted by light with the health. So over the past couple of years, I started working with Neuronic specifically to focus in on transcranial applications, in particular supporting brain health. So we work a lot with neurodegeneration and Alzheimer's and dementia in particular.
Wonderful. Now, I always ask everyone who's on the show if they've been personally touched in their own circle of friends or family by dementia.
Yes, and I have my dad's side, both his mom and his sister both had dementia, so definitely firsthand have experienced it, but also was a part of why I became so passionate about all of this.
Okay. Well, why don't we start out talking about photo-biomodulation and what that term even means, and we can get into the transcranial and maybe just some definitions to get us leveled off and speaking the same ease.
Absolutely. So photobiomodulation is certainly an incredibly long word, but really all that it's saying is that this is the impact of light on our own biology and how it can actually modulate some of these benefits or things that might be going on. So, for example, every day we kind of abide our lives by the sun. You know, we stay awake during the sunlight hours where we can see our environment, and we sleep when it's dark at night. So that's one way that we are experiencing photobiomodulation anyway. But this in particular, this new field of science that's been emerging over the past about 30 years now, although it's been researched for over 100 years, but in the technology space for about 30 years now, it's been more focused and concentrated. So you'll see different kinds of devices. For instance, there's a lot of skin devices out there right now, those wild-looking masks that people wear. That's a form of photobiomodulation, and those tend to be in lower wavelengths, like in the red wavelengths, which can just penetrate through the skin. Once you start getting into longer wavelengths, like infrared light, which is actually invisible to the human eye, you can start penetrating more deeply into the body to hit more of these target tissues, like the gut, or in this case, with the transcranial application, we're targeting the brain.
Okay, wonderful. Now you had mentioned the red. I've heard there's like green light too. Is there a lot of different colors? And
Yes. Yeah, there are. They span from, UV light was even used a lot during COVID. You might have seen people using those wands or the industrial sized ones for like some of these subways and things. But those UV lights were used to be able to clear viruses and other fungi and things like that. They're also being used in blue light for babies with jaundice. So newborn babies who have jaundice will be placed on these blue light beds to be able to help them. And then, yes, anything from the green and yellow and then red, all of those are typically things that affect us about skin deep. And so they have their own individual ways that they can impact our biology.
oh, interesting. I know I tried one at an alternative clinic that I went to, and it was kind of amazing how I felt the change and stuff. I really wasn't anticipating much of an impact, and I was greatly surprised with that. So let's talk about the transcranial photobiomodulation, and how it supports the brain. Like, what does it do, to really help the brain perform? I'm assuming that's the end goal.
Absolutely. So the main things that it does as the primary outcomes is decreasing inflammation and increasing circulation. Those are the basic outcomes from this, which we all need. This is why we exercise and we got to get up and moving and all of that. And so when you have something that can help to support that in the brain, we can really be supporting this brain health as well. So the way that it ends up working is we have these chemicals called adenosine triphosphate. We just go with ATP because that's way easier to say. That's in our body, and it's essentially the currency molecule. So anything that we want to do, if I'm going to sit here and wiggle my fingers, we have to have ATP sent to those fingers to be able to make that movement happen. Over time, as we age and we're just getting older, that ATP production starts to break down as our cells just become a lot weaker. They're not quite as resilient as they used to be, like when you're kids and you can just bounce back from anything. So as this starts to break down, that's when we start seeing some of these issues, like maybe it's a little harder to remember where you put your keys, or it's a little harder to remember that name of that one person. And those are the things that we really need ATP for. So having something like infrared light that can help to support this, increase that ATP production, we can start to get back some of that viability in these cells so they can start producing more ATP to get to where we were. The other thing is there's a lot of things that can cause inflammation. So for instance, long COVID has been obviously a big topic over the past couple of years. years. Part of that is that we see this inflammation just lasting in the brain. And how do we get rid of that? We can't really do a lot from it. Getting drugs to the brain can be even difficult because we have that great blood-brain barrier. So once you have something that can actually target directly, that ATP, once it's released, can also help to knock out nitric oxide, which is what binds to cells and creates inflammation. So not only is it helping just to make it easier to do the things that we're doing, it's also helping to combat the inflammation in the brain. This way we could just get this kind of circular help with this, that we increase more of that circulation, you decrease more inflammation, so you can increase more circulation. All those cells are starting to get those nutrients that they need. They can get back to that healthy state to do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, and we're really hearing so much more about the effects of inflammation in our body. I mean, way more than what we've ever heard before. And also the whole circulation being key. You know, when that gets bound up, things aren't moving and feeding one another within our bodies the way we need them to do. And so I find that really interesting because I think those are such great key components to everything, you know, because like you said, you know, exercise, you could only do so much, and the exercise, to my knowledge, isn't going to necessarily clear the inflammation that's plugging up the circulation problem and stuff like that. So yeah, very interesting. Now I heard something called tPBM. What the heck is that?
Yeah, so that's just the acronym for the transcranial photo-biomodulation because it's way easier to say than this massive amount of words with it. So yes, PBM is something you'll see regularly for different kinds of companies that are out there or research for anybody who's looking into that. PBM is a commonly used acronym for it, and tPBM is referring specifically to transcranial. Photobiomodulation can be used on any part of the body, so you can certainly find devices that can be targeting to other areas, but tPBM will specifically look at just for the brain health in particular.
Gotcha. So for people with dementia, do you have any studies in terms of what this does for them or rates of change?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's been really amazing. And honestly, that's where a lot of this field came from. Photobiomodulation was being studied for the body or helping to heal from wounds or, you know, aching muscles for a long time, but we didn't really think about it for the brain until much more recently. And part of it was starting to look at this impact on cognitive decline, dementia, and mild cognitive impairment. So what they showed is that even in a single session, just one session of applying light to the head, we saw an increase in visual working memory from these individuals, improvements in their MoCA scores that were coming from it, and these effects would last at least for, 24 to 48 hours from just one session. Once they started looking at repeated sessions, so having a couple of these or consistently using it over time, then we start seeing these effects lasting out 3 weeks or even longer as they continue to move on. So we see a lot of impacts that it can help with this cognition, that memory, and also some other things you don't necessarily think about, but that are also harming our health, which are things like sleep. We need to have proper sleep to be able to keep our brains functioning as they are. That's where you get that glymphatic drainage so that we can clear out all the things that might be getting in the way of our brain health. But if you're not getting proper sleep, then you're not going to be able to do that. So having something that can also help to support sleep and improve sleep quality is such a huge thing to improve health. And those are obviously the things that we can just test for or look at. But when we're also looking into these mechanisms, again, we're able to see these things that we're having this change either in the tau readings when they're doing the testing for it. We're also seeing decreases in inflammation markers, inflammatory markers like interleukin-6 and other things. In this change in these inflammatory cytokines, which again is something I think people didn't really talk about until COVID hit, but now it's becoming a little bit more in the regular vernacular. It's things that protect us when we're in a point of being ill or something's, harming us. But once they continue being inflammatory for excessive points of time, that's when you start running into more issues. So having something that can help to turn that off, then we can start repairing. Another thing, though, that I think is maybe talked about a lot less with this is that the tPBM can also stimulate BDNF, or brain-derived neurotrophic factor. This is really important because this is where we can start to regrow some of these areas that might have been damaged. So you can really start to recover more of this function, and it's not just a temporary up and then it's gone, but rather we're going at the cellular level to start to repair and regrow so we can get back those things that we might have lost.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident that was not your fault, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions for free. Call now and find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell everyone listening who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me here. It's always nice to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now. 800-710-5100. You'll find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. Take advantage of this opportunity and call now. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states. Not available in California.
Wow, that's really cool. I love that you mentioned sleep too, because people, I think we've kind of blown that off for years and years, and it's just been, I don't even think it's been 10 years really that it's been talked about, the importance of that rejuvenation and that need, like you said, to kind of clean the junk out while we're sleeping and move forward. And the whole regrowth process, that's got to be very, very exciting on that. Now, have you gotten responses from people living with dementia who have gone through this, and what are their thoughts?
Yeah, so with my company, then I meet with our end users and providers that we work with, but I meet with our end users, and the majority of them are typically a caretaker for somebody who has dementia or somebody who's early on in their diagnosis who's trying to be proactive. So what we've seen from this is, I get a lot of the reports from the spouses saying it feels like they're back to who they used to be. It feels like I've gotten my spouse back, which is always an amazing thing to hear. It's been great to see more interaction from individuals. So maybe the first time I meet with the person, then, the individual with dementia doesn't really say anything. They don't, necessarily and even acknowledge maybe that I'm there. And then the next time that I meet with them, they might even remember my name or remember that I've met with them before. They do have some acknowledgement with it, more facial expressions even, which is really incredible to see. Being able to remember things more easily. So again, maybe just knowing where they put their coat down, for instance. Or we've had one person, which was a really fun thing, that she was a person who loved to cook, has been a cook her whole life, and she'd stopped once she got in this diagnosis and was just really kind of despondent and wasn't really interested in doing any of these things. She started using our helmet, and then she began cooking again and got back in the kitchen. So doing those things that she wanted to do, it was really incredible. The other thing, though, that I think is important is, we do see some agitation come up in dementia. It's, pretty frequently, and that can be really hard, especially as a caretaker. It's a sad thing to see because you're just trying to help this person. And I've seen significant improvements in that. And in fact, one study that they did showed that these individuals scored better on a depression scale too. So we see improvements in mood as well with this. So it's really a wide variety of things. And again, this is just from applying light to the head. There's nothing else that's going on. It's nothing invasive or anything else, but just something that can give those cells a little boost to get back to where they were.
Wow. And that change in mood and that reduction in the agitation, that's massive. I mean, because that can be the pieces that just push people over the edge. Right. It's exhaustive, trying to deal with it. And, then if, for so many, when they're seeing this loss and all these changes, they term it ambiguous loss, where it's just constant, right. This constant of where is my person? Like you said, right. Spouse said, they're back again. and maybe not fully, but they can definitely see the difference in that. Have you had people with dementia actually talk about how they feel about this and if they feel or see the changes?
Yeah, so especially earlier on in the diagnosis, you can get a lot more of that. Otherwise, once we get into more moderate or later stages, the caregivers are mostly the ones to report on it. But individuals earlier on in their diagnosis, yeah, they find that it's something that's really easy to use and it doesn't cause anything unwanted. They're not dealing with negative side effects or anything. But yeah, that they feel brighter. They feel like they have more energy. So getting reports that individuals who maybe took a couple of naps throughout the day, now they're able to make it through their day. The other thing is increasing that confidence. So I've had reports from some of my clients that they kind of didn't want to go like to their church group anymore because they just didn't feel comfortable because they knew that they had these memory issues. And now they've started going to their church group again. I have one of my clients that he ended up going back to his church group, and then he even did a lecture for the church group so that he led it, which was something that he thought was absolutely never going to happen again. But he got that confidence back because it felt easier to be able to recall the words, and he also knew what he wanted to say, and he could keep up with it during. And that's huge. I mean, getting back into that community is already so helpful for somebody, but needing that confidence is understandable. So having that change is just really incredible to see.
Yeah, my mom lived with dementia for 30 years, and I remember her. I mean, she used to be kind of a social butterfly and coordinator of everything and knew everybody and stuff. And then all of a sudden, she was just kind of a wallflower. And then pretty soon, she wasn't even entering the room, to be a wallflower. I mean, that because again, they know they don't know, and they don't want to embarrass themselves, or they don't want to embarrass anyone else. And that's just got to be a horrible feeling. Not feeling comfortable of how your body's going to react. Your body and your mind is going to react. And then being able to see and sense how people look at you differently and treat you differently, even though we all think we don't treat them differently. I mean, it doesn't have to be a word. It doesn't have to be an action. It can just be the change in our eyes.
Right.
In terms of how we look at someone. And I think people forget the power of that. And,
Yeah. And I've seen it even with some individuals, which again, it's been great to see the change that came, but even individuals who didn't even want to talk to their own children anymore because I think, and it's not that their children were upset with them or angry with them or anything, but just because they could see and feel that difference in it and getting that confidence back, even to go back into those situations, because that's important too, to be with your family and having that connection. So it's huge to see, once somebody can feel like it's okay to be themselves again.
Yeah, well, and I think when people don't want to be around their kids, a lot of times they're worried that they'll be stripped of even more, and more control will be taken, or you're not able to do this, that, or the other thing. And that has to be terrifying, feeling a loss of control over your own life and your own wishes. And as much as kids and people who step in as caregivers, can say, well, I'm doing this for their best interest, it doesn't always feel like that, or they're not included in the conversation to make the decisions in terms of how it's going to go or when it's going to go. So now you had mentioned about wearing a helmet. So is this like a football helmet, a bike helmet, or, do they have to wear it all day long, when they go out? How does all of that work? Because I'm sure people are wondering.
So this is definitely, it looks basically just like a bike helmet. So that's something that's helpful, is it's something familiar. It doesn't look like a weird, wild gadget that you're putting on someone's head. It's something that's already really familiar and even feels familiar because of the shape of it. So it's something that, can cover the entire head, all the way around from those frontal lobes and up to the back and the occipital lobe as well. For these sessions in general, for individuals diagnosed with dementia, the sessions typically range from 20 to 30 minutes and usually once or twice a day. So a lot of times people are doing it while they're eating breakfast in the morning because you can do other things while you have it on because it's just light on your head. So you have that opportunity. I have people who will do it while they're meditating in the morning. Had one client, and that's what he woke up every morning at 6 a.m. and he meditated. That was one thing he held on to as he continued into his dementia. And so he just wore the helmet during that time. So it fits in really easily with your day because you're not having to do anything with it. It's just having that power in itself. So these sessions, in general, range from 20 to 30 minutes. It does typically depend on how much hair someone has. The less hair you have, then the less time that you need, or the lighter that the hair is, the less time that you need. But 20 to 30 minutes is something most people can find in their day. Usually you do it once in the morning and once in the evening. I do have people, though, who will also do it right before bed. But again, that kind of meal time makes it easy just to keep up with that schedule and trying to use it 5 to 6 days a week. And certainly the longer that you're using it, then it's okay if you, let's say, go away for a week and then come back. You can restart again because, again, we're working at that cellular level to build a foundation over time instead of this being something that must be done every single day constantly or you immediately lose those effects. And that's one of the big benefits with this infrared light and being able to actually penetrate into these cells and working at that level.
So could somebody overdo the treatments,
Yes. And so what I find in general with people who've overdone it is either they'll experience a minor headache or fatigue. Most of the time, this is related to dehydration. We kind of know in the population of individuals with dementia, that might be an issue already. So it's a really great reminder, too, of go ahead and drink water while you're using the helmet before and after. You probably need it anyway. Most of us tend towards dehydration. So it's a good reminder. I have people who just keep a sticky note on their helmet just as that reminder for them as soon as they pick it up, or anything hydrating. It doesn't necessarily have to be water. There can be other flavored waters or things like that, as long as it's something that's hydrating. But usually that mitigates most of the effects. And otherwise, sometimes we'll run into maybe a couple of more sensitive individuals if you have some other things that might be going on, some comorbidities. And then in that case, you're just doing a shorter session. So those are the individuals doing more like 20 minutes instead of 30 minutes.
Okay. And then does it have to be plugged in? I mean, how does that work? Is it battery or does it need to be charged, like our phones?
Yeah. So we have two different models, but the one that I highly recommend is our portable model. So this one you can plug it into the wall for individuals who still prefer that, which I do have some who prefer that. But you can have it on a portable external battery. The reason we did keep it on that external battery is that keeps the weight down. So it's just something that's a really light helmet that you have, and that battery can just be slipped into a pocket. You can go about your day. So I have a lot of people who wear it while they're doing the dishes or maybe while they're vacuuming. So you can kind of keep going about your day with it. It does require that external power source just so we're getting sufficient enough power output from the light. That's what we need to be able to reach the brain. But yes, we do have that portable one. So you really can kind of take it and go. I've even been wearing it in my car sometimes on a drive because it just was an easy time to put on my helmet. So yeah, it's really flexible.
Okay, so if someone is traveling, could this be an issue at all in their luggage? I know they're getting goofy with like lithium batteries and things like that.
It's in the United States. It's not any issue. There's been a couple of countries, if you're going outside of it, who've been weary about the battery specifically. The helmet, they're totally fine with, but the battery pack specifically. So I just recommend, that's why we give both options of being able to plug it into the wall or having that battery. So while you're traveling, if you can just bring an adapter for the wall, then you should be fine to go. So it kind of is able to mitigate any of those issues. But in the United States, and if you're traveling, from Florida to New York or whatever it might be, it's not a problem at all.
Okay, well that's good to know. I don't know. You just never know with all that stuff. No, with the battery one, you can get an adapter though, so it's not just strictly battery. Okay, so that's
Exactly, yeah. And we provide both of that. So anybody who gets our device, we get 2 cords with it so that you can have one for the wall and one for the battery pack. That gives you that flexibility.
okay. Are there certain things that people should consider, if they're looking into this, or are there any maybe conditions that people have that this might not be a good match for?
Yeah, so it's pretty safe for the majority of people. This is considered a wellness device. And again, it's just light. It's already something we get from the sun. But the times that we do find that it's not a good fit for it is individuals who have active cancer. The light can unfortunately fuel a tumor by creating angiogenesis. So we do not recommend it for individuals with active cancer or for metal implanted in the head. So individuals with deep brain stimulation, or if it just happened to be shrapnel or something else, we do recommend not using it because you have a potential for heating it. Otherwise, though, that's pretty much it for all of the contraindications. It's a very well tolerated device. And yeah, as far as all of these companies that have been out and all the research that's been done, we haven't found other contraindications aside from this. Even with metal, it's interesting. We have a person that we work with who has a titanium skull, and their doctor cleared them for using the helmet. So apparently titanium is actually okay to be able to use the helmet with, but in general we do recommend not using it with metal in the head.
Okay. I was interested, like for pacemakers or something like that, if a current would throw something off.
Caring for someone with dementia is one of the toughest journeys, but you don't have to do it alone. I'm Allison Schreier, and my experience caring for my husband inspired me to create Zinnia, a therapeutic streaming service designed to support people living with dementia and reduce caregiver stress. Zinnia offers research-backed videos intentionally created for people with dementia, engaging, calming, and easy to follow. Whether you need to ease agitation, create moments of joy, or make daily routines smoother, Zinnia is here to help. Family and professional caregivers use our content to turn challenges into opportunities for connection. Accessible by subscription on mobile devices and connected TVs, Zinnia is simple to use whenever you need it. Because when caregiving feels easier, life feels better. Go to zinniatv.com and sign up for a free trial today. Use the code RESOURCE for 15% off an annual Zinnia subscription.
It shouldn't, not at all. So only that deep brain stimulation, just because it's actually in the brain, that's where it can be affected. But since this is operating in its own way, there's no magnetic field or anything else. We don't have any EMFs that come off of our device outside of minor Bluetooth that comes from, using the phone app. But that's something that you get just if you're using headphones, connected to your device. So we don't find any contraindications with other implanted devices.
Okay. Do people feel like a heat source, or is there a sound like a humming or anything that's going on during this process?
Yeah, so sometimes people will feel like it feels a little warm. It's nothing that should be hot at any point in time. That's part of our design with our device, is using LEDs so they don't heat up at the same rate like a laser would or like that full blast from the sun would. And it has a lot of these ventilations. So some people notice that there's a bit of a heat. A lot of people don't even notice. And in terms of the sounds, there's not any sound. So we actually added sound to it so that people were aware of when the helmet was turning on and turning off. So once you start a protocol, it'll just beep 3 times just to let you know that it started. And once it ends, it'll beep 3 times to let you know that it's ended. It's a very quiet beep. It's not a loud and aggressive beep. We just wanted to give people a way to understand that it was starting or ending.
Okay. And then is there like a timer on it then, or is that something that is pre-done when it's sent out?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have 4 presets that come with the device. And these 4 presets are what have been researched the most in the science. At this point in time, there's not any other settings that we found enough support for, and we just want to follow the science in our company. So these 4 presets we've labeled Focus, which is a 40 hertz, which just means it flashes 40 times per second. A Balance program, which is 14 hertz, or flashing 14 times a second. Peace, which is 10 hertz, and Glow, which is constant light. Each of these has a description that's provided in the app as well, but we also provide guidance on this too. In general, people who are maybe using it more for sleep you would use the peace setting. So we set that up to be a much lower dosage. It has a low intensity, so you're getting a little amount of light just to be able to stimulate that lymphatic drainage system enough without being stimulating to keep you awake at night. On the other hand, like the glow protocol, that's 100% intensity. It's just constant light. So it's a very high dosage that you can get in that time. And that's one that we would recommend more for the day. And the same with the focus. We labeled it that because that's helpful for your day. We're wanting to concentrate on a task or go about what we're doing. You would want to use it in the morning. Each of these has a time for them that's already set in the app as well. And we find that most people do really well starting off with the way that they're set. So for instance, Glow is a 10-minute program and Focus is a 6-minute program. These can be really good starting points, but just in case you start using these protocols and you think, hey, I'm really not feeling anything yet, you can increase that time, again, up to 30 minutes as a maximum. Some people feel fine when they're just using the protocols as they are, and I myself just use the Glow protocol as it is. It's a 10-minute protocol. I feel great afterwards, and I just leave it at that. But certainly other people have different tolerances, and again, it does depend about the amount of hair that you have.
Interesting. Can you give our audience kind of an idea of cost, or my guess is this isn't covered by insurance yet. It's probably still looked at as alternative or something.
Yes, it is. We do take HSA and FSA payments for it. But yeah, the device that I highly recommend is our newer device. It's called the Lite, just to make it easy. And it's around $1,795. This is definitely an investment up front. But what I always tell people is when anybody in your house can use it. So I always recommend a caretaker to be using it as well to help with their own stress and especially sleep support too. But also it's something that can be updated. So let's say maybe there is new research that came out next year and a pulse rate of 93 hertz, 93 flashes per second is really what optimizes cognition. We would update our app so that you would have that protocol. You don't have to purchase a new device or go do anything else. You will be able to adapt with the science as it comes. We've also tested these. We know that these lights last at least 100,000 hours. That's the maximum that we could test them for. So these are really, really long-lasting devices, and they're really heartily made. I can say I've had my helmet now for over 3 years, and I have a pretty rambunctious dog who has thrown it on the ground, tripping over wires. It's been everything you can kind of imagine. Never run into any issues with it because we really did make these to be as durable as possible. It's also a helpful thing then, too, if you're having to travel with it on a regular basis. And it's very durable for being able to take places, too.
Maybe the dog needs the peace mode.
I use my other lights on my dog too, and as long as I can get him to like stay there and stay calm, like I will absolutely use a light on my dog.
Now, can kids use this? Is there any age limit on this?
No, so the youngest age that they have a published study for at this point in time is 2, which is wild. Yeah, and a lot of the research with the kids has been done around autism in particular, which is really interesting. But yeah, there doesn't seem to be an age limit. What we do find, though, is that the younger that somebody is and the healthier that someone is, the shorter time that they need. So while an adult, maybe these presets of a maximum of that 10 minutes or even down to that 6 minutes might be a really good starting place for them, I'd start a lot slower for a young child, maybe at 1 or 2 minutes, and just see how they're doing. Everybody's different, and it totally depends on your own biology of how you end up responding to the light. So starting low and slow is just going to be an easier way to go. And again, you're looking out for those signs of either that minor headache or fatigue. So again, it's usually things that people feel once they have the helmet on. You kind of notice it in the moment. They're not anything that's harmful. Again, it's most often due to dehydration. So just go and drink a good glass of water afterwards.
Okay. Well, and I like that you suggested, that the care partners or other family members use it too. It takes, I think, one part of the scary out, and 2, that something's wrong with just you.
Yeah.
And because I think so often the disease gets blamed for everything, but yet we all feel these moments where we're exhausted, or, our wires aren't crossing, and it could be sleep, it could be our eating pattern, it could be a zillion different things. But if something like that is simple, it's just a nice way to be able to support the person you're caring for, but along with caring for yourself and getting a feel for what is this thing really doing to me, so I have an idea of what it's doing to them or for them. Because I think sometimes we don't notice changes unless we're told what to look for. And
Right.
if you can sense it in yourself, I think you'll be looking for different things as you're watching them.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, and also we know that stress is definitely not something that's great for you. And being a caregiver is a lot of stress. It's a lot of giving. So something that gives you that little bit back too is just so helpful. But I completely agree. A lot of my clients that I work with, both of the individuals in the couple will use the same protocol and they'll follow the same schedule and they'll do it at the same time each day. So yeah, it's almost even like a bonding thing on top of that. So it's really wonderful kind of technology for that reason. There's no harm in being able to do it just because you don't have dementia. This is just something that's going to be helpful for optimizing brain health. So it's really a win-win.
Well, and it could even be used as a little bit of a respite tool for the caregiver. If you set it up like, I'm going to just leave you alone with yours, and then when I do it, you just leave me alone when I do it, so that they have that quiet time, which sounds really kind of asinine in some ways, but it's so critical that people have that kind of downtime. And sometimes that really gets lost very easily. And once you lose it, it's hard to pull it back in.
Right, exactly. And that's where it's kind of nice. I think some people prefer having the wall attachment for that is we keep it in the room. This is the room for the helmet. You'll go in here. Right. It gives that kind of space and time.
Now, I've also seen over the years where people have had like lights in their living room or whatever, but you just sit by that. Can you say what the difference is? I mean, I think I kind of know between having it in your head or on your head versus just in the room.
Yeah, absolutely. So most of those devices that you'll see that are in the room, especially these panels or other things that you might see, they typically operate in a red and near infrared spectrum, usually around 600-ish nanometers and around 800-ish nanometers. Those are the 600s in that red. It's still visible, so you can see those lights. And that 800, you're getting into the infrared. You might see a little bit of the light, but it's starting to get a lot more dim. Those are really great for the body. It's really great for the skin. They can penetrate through a couple of layers. So especially if you're targeting muscles that ache or maybe an old injury that flares up every once in a while, that's sufficient to be able to reach those areas. The difference when we start looking at the brain is now we have to get through hair, which is designed to reflect light. And then we have the skin, the scalp, the skull, and then the meninges. And then you get to the brain tissue. That's a lot of different layers to get through, with the skull being a very, very thick layer. For that, we need a longer wavelength. So those shorter wavelengths just aren't able to penetrate through those different biological materials. That's why for our helmet, we're in that 1070 range, which is much longer than these 600 or 800. Now we're into that where there's no visibility of the light at all. This is what's able to penetrate through all those layers to reach this area. So I don't need that necessarily for a knee, for instance. It's much less that you're having to get through. But for the head in particular, we just need a longer wavelength to reach there. Now, that being said, I do want to point out you can still use both of them. So you can still use those other lights that people have set up in their house. Absolutely. You can use them at the same time even. So, for myself, I have a lot of back problems. So I'll use one for my back and have my helmet on too. So it doesn't mean that you can't use your other ones. It's just that they do have that different purpose and where their target tissue is.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident that was not your fault, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions for free. Call now and find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell everyone listening who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me here. It's always nice to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now. 800-710-5100. You'll find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. Take advantage of this opportunity and call now 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states. Not available in California.
So in the helmet, when you were talking about the different tissues, does it target more kind of like our old soft spot on our head to be able to get through easier? I mean, are there certain spots that are easier to penetrate?
Well, sure. I mean, certainly any areas that don't have hair on them are going to be the easiest, but otherwise, that's kind of why we chose to have this full coverage. So it's about that kind of total joules that you're getting in there, which is how we measure how much light's reaching this target tissue. So you're getting a really large amount of it to be able to kind of build up to be able to get enough through. So yes, while, perhaps the forehead would be the easiest place, we can at least also be reaching these other places that maybe still have some hair, but we have those gaps in between our hair follicles for it to be able to reach. Even so, it can also get through the hair too. It's just on a lot lesser extent.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, interesting. So bottom line, insurance doesn't cover it, but it can be spread out and used over multiple people within the household, or I suppose if you wanted to have friends come in or something and share the cost, you could with that. And it sounds, like it's not invasive at all and really comfortable to use, and doesn't sound like it's gonna, up your electricity bill a ton or anything, where some stuff, nowadays people are worried about their utility bills and what they've got plugged in and what's draining their juice and stuff. So I to me, it sounds reasonable, and especially for how they've been built for that, 100,000 hours when you're talking, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes at a crack. That's a lot of time. To be able to spread over, and then the ability to have those upgrades done to it as well as those come through. So can I ask, how long has your company, Neuronic, been around?
Yeah, so I think they officially launched in 2021. We had our first product, which is, we still have this one as well. It's the Neuradiant 1070. This one that we started with, it is a more expensive model, but it was what we could do at that time. We were just learning as we went along. And we had developed it in a way of more targeting different regions of the brain. That seemed to be a really good approach at the beginning. The longer that we went on, the more research that we did, we realized most people kind of need their entire brain to get some support. It's not just this one area. It's all of these different areas, different things that are going on. So most people were using all 4 sections of our first helmet. At that point, we really started looking into, one, how can we make this more affordable and, more approachable for more people? So it was in 2025 that we launched our new product called the Light. And that's the one that I highly recommend. That's the one that's about half the price of our first one. And it's just that full global approach, because most people need all the areas of their brain supported. So we've been really, really focused on just trying to make this as approachable and easy for as many people as possible. So our new one, the Light devices, also run through an app on the phone. And I know people get really hesitant about that. They don't want another app. They don't want to deal with those things. But we really tried to make it as simple as possible. So there's no subscription with it. The app is just, once you log on to it, it just has those 4 presets on there. You can just push the button and go. It's all you have to do for it. So we just wanted to make it as easy as possible for it.
Okay. And then have you done anything with research or looking into Parkinson's, if that helps with tremors or anything like that?
Yeah, so there is research that's been done, and it's interesting to see, honestly. What's really cool, they've been doing at this point, the last one they published was a 5-year follow-up for the individuals who've been using devices. That's not with our device in particular. It's actually a combination of other devices, but I still support any of this research. What they were really measuring was more of those biomarkers in particular for these individuals, and they were showing consistently. They did a pre and post at the beginning. I can't remember exactly how much time time it was if they did a 6 months or a year. Then they did a 3-year follow-up, and now they've done a 5-year follow-up. Consistently, the active intervention group is testing better on all of these different biometrics. There's also case studies that have been done looking at that with improvements in tremor, improvements in that rigidity. I've had personal experiences of seeing individuals who've had the breathiness in particular was resolved using the helmet, which was unexpected, but very cool to see. And feeling like that easier time, like the get up and go task, there's been improvements in that. It varies a lot more. Parkinson's has a lot more variance in it, whereas with dementia, we kind of have a set protocol that we sort of know works based on a lot of different research that's been done. Parkinson's, it seems like there's a little bit more nuance to it. Certainly, we've seen some benefits from it, and I think especially for individuals with Lewy body Parkinson's, it's a really helpful thing to kind of get back some of that cognitive clarity.
Okay, wonderful. Now, for people to sign up for this, do they just go to your website then?
Yes, yeah. So we have our website, neuronic.online. Here we have a ton of information that's on there. So we try to give as much education as possible. We want you to feel empowered in making this decision, like know everything that's going on. One of the things that Neuronic does that stands out is we give you our full specs for our device. Most people don't know what that means anyway when they read them, but the point is we want to be as transparent as we possibly can. We not only give you those full specs, but we also have an entire write-up on how we got all of them. So we really want you to know exactly what you're getting so you understand it. On top of that, we do have a really great customer service team. So if you have any questions at any point in time, we have individuals who are happy to answer them. They can help with protocols. They can help you understand how to set it up. And we try to do everything that we can just to make it as easy as possible. We also have a YouTube channel for anybody who's interested with that. It's just Neuronic for our YouTube name. And we have a lot of educational content on there as well that talks about different topics, including dementia, but also just kind of some of the science behind it if people are more interested in that aspect. We're updating that content at the minimum on a monthly basis and usually more times than that. So it's always full of really interesting things. And then beyond that too, even in the app, if you end up purchasing, we have additional resources as well for things like what protocol is best for me or any write-ups that we have, like new blogs with new science that comes out. So we really try to kind of give as much information as possible. We want you to know what you're getting, and we're happy to help and answer any questions that anybody has at any point in time.
So did I hear you say you actually had real people answering phones?
We do.
Because that's a pretty big thing these days. I know I'm ready just to throw my phone against the wall so many times, like, that's not what I'm asking, or it's not a yes or no, question. And don't put me to that department because they passed me on to another one, and then I end up right back where I started again. And so, yeah, so that's a huge factor. Huge.
Yes. Yeah, we have real people who will answer it. We don't have any passing around to different departments. In fact, we're also an international company, so there's a good chance that at any point in time that you contact us, there's going to be somebody available. So we're here to help, and we want you to know that there's real people on this side of it.
Is there anything in particular that people should really consider when they're looking at light for the brain?
Yes, and this is where it's really important. So even going back to that conversation about those lights in the house or like those panels, I have people ask me, why can't I just put my panel on my head? One is that wavelength, which we discussed, but the other side is you have to actually have the light targeting this tissue in the way the light is set up. So if you have a flat panel on the head, only those lights that are touching the top of the head will be reaching the brain. All the rest of them are just scattering outside of it. So you could just sit and do an hour or 2 hours of just moving it slowly all the way around the head. It's going to be a lot more uncomfortable and a lot more difficult to get the same results. So it's really important for individuals to know when you're choosing a photo-biomodulation device, you need to get a device that has an actual form fitting for the target tissue. So for the head, having a helmet like this, it's actually aiming these lights lights at the brain so that we can really help. The other thing is it's really important to look for third-party testing for any of these companies. Get that often too, of why can't I just go on Temu and get this, helmet that I found that's much cheaper? Well, because it's not going to be what people say it is. I mean, here we're already in the infrared light spectrum, so you can't see these lights visibly without having a particular filter for it. That's already something that's putting a lot of trust in another person. There's a lot of these companies out there that are telling you that they're doing this in one wavelength, and they're not, but because you can't see the lights, you won't know that. So it's really important to look for that third-party testing just to know that what you're getting is actually what it says that it is. And the other thing is, for anybody who is really curious and they want to be able to see those lights, there are filters that exist on Amazon, so you can always order those too if you're really, really interested, and just look for that wavelength, and then you're able to see them. They're kind of cool. They're like little green filters, and you can see like a purple light when you hold it over the helmet. So that's always kind of a neat little tidbit for individuals.
Is it wise for people to consult with their doctors before ordering something like this?
Absolutely. At any point in time that you're introducing something new, it's always important to consult with a medical professional. Let them know what you're doing. Even if your doctor isn't totally sure about all of this technology, let them know exactly that you're putting on this or adding this into your regimen. It's just good to know in case there's some reason that they, don't want you to use this. Sometimes there might be more light-sensitive medications. Maybe you just need a lower dosage. But these are things that if you consult with your medical professional, they're aware. You can work with them on this too.
I agree. I think it's good for people to know. And like you said, doctors don't always know about this alternative stuff, or they might not be comfortable with it because it's just not their realm. It's not how they were taught. But I have seen more doctors actually leaning towards a lot of this kind of alternative medicine because they're not seeing the results with what they have in their protocols right now. But again, I do think it's important for them to know, just in case. I mean, you never know. Somebody could have a reaction in some fashion, and that needs to be known about. Anything else that we haven't covered that you think our audience should know about?
I just like to point out, I think it's an exciting time to kind of be in this field, and I'm very lucky that I get to do this often, but it's really neat to see how much more studies are coming out. So, I mean, even when I first started in this field, it was maybe 2,500 studies that were out. Now we're at over 12,000 studies that have been released with this. So the science is just growing and growing and growing. There's always this new information. They're looking into more of these combinations as well. So using photo-biomodulation with different kinds of supplements or medications. So that research is moving forward too. So there's a lot more that's going to be coming from it. It's already exciting that we've gotten this far to understand where things are, but there's so much more that's going to come. And I think it's a great time to get in on it and be able to start helping your own brain.
Wow. Well, Jordan, I really appreciate you spending this much time with us today. And again, folks, their website is neuronic.online. So it's not .com, it's online. And their email, you can just use support@Neuronic online. Their YouTube channel is Neuronic, same with social media. And we'll have all that stuff in here for you as well, and in the show notes for people to be able to reach out. But I think it's an exciting time. I mean, the power of light is kind of interesting. I mean, I think of the Star Trek and all the sci-fis and stuff like that. And it's like, gosh, we've arrived on a lot of levels. The Flintstones with the flying cars are coming. It's just things are definitely evolving, and they're no longer just fantasy. And there's science to back some of this stuff up, and so it's pretty cool. So check them out, and pass the word along. I always ask my audience to be givers of hope, because they have people in their own spheres that need this information, and probably like them listening, they've never heard of this stuff before. I want to say I probably interviewed somebody 10, 15 years ago on this, and a few people over time, but not too many. And that was like, oh, I never heard of this, at all. And it seems like there's more of it going on now in the US, where it used to seem to be more overseas. Anyways, that was my impression of it. And so I find that to be really exciting as well. Yeah. And the outcomes sound fabulous, from what you've told us. And again, people can dig into their research a little bit more if they would like to. So again, thank you so much. I always encourage people to check out, our free educational resources on Alzheimer's Speaks, and then also our global resources on Dementia Map as well. So until next time, thanks so much, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident that was not your fault, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions for free. Call now and find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell everyone listening who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me here. It's always nice to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now. 800-710-5100. You'll find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. Take advantage of this opportunity and call now. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states. Not available in California.